You know what? You actually asked this question at the perfect time, because I was just about to start making some new cubes, so why don't I just take you guys along for the process? So the first step of the process is I need to print out these hearts. I print them out 4 at a time on my big printer here. After I get all the hearts printed, I hot glue them onto these little platforms that I made. I do it like this specifically so that way the hearts are floating in the middle of the cube rather than sinking to the bottom or floating to the top. Alright, so as you can see here, I have my epoxy, I have my hearts, and I have my molds in these nice little Lego frames that help keep them perfectly cube-shaped. The epoxy specifically is a 4-inch deep pour tabletop epoxy, and it takes a full 72 hours to cure. Which sounds like a long time, but is actually really helpful because it helps get rid of a lot of the bubbles that you have in the faster curing resins. Now, once I get the epoxy all mixed up, it's time to start filling up these cubes, but only a little bit. For this first pour, I only want to do about 2 blocks high. Alright, I've waited about 15 minutes and all of the bubbles are out now, so it's time to put the hearts in. Now, when I put the hearts in, it should be flush with the cube, just like so. And I then put just pretty much anything heavy nearby on top of it to hold it down. And now that both of these are done, I have to wait about 24 hours. Alright, it's the next day. Now that the epoxy has hardened slightly, I can peel off this top. This is why it is very important to use hot glue here. And after we peel off that glue, it is time for the next pour. This pour is much like the first, except that now we are pouring these all the way to the top. And now that that's done, we need to wait the full 72 hours for these to fully cure. It's been 3 days, and here are the fully cured cubes. Now all I gotta do is peel them out of here. And look at this. Look at these absolutely pristine cubes. Now, if this is all you want, this is perfectly fine. This is a good place for most people to stop. But just good enough is not good enough for me, because there are more steps to this. After all the cubes are fully cured, it's time to round off these corners and get to sanding. Up first, I hit it with this router to round those edges. And there you go. Now that we got all these corners nice and rounded off, it's time to start sanding. I sand each cube with escalating levels of sandpaper until they're all nice and smooth. Now, while the sanding is great for smoothing out all these edges and making it all nice and uniform, you might be noticing a slight issue. Now it's time to deal with the fog. And I promise we're in the final stretch now. I am going to be taking a very small amount of acrylic and rubbing it into these cubes before wiping them back down. And there you go. You can already see the difference that makes. Now, after I let that cure, there is one final step. We need to properly polish the cubes. And there you go, everything right back to that crystal clear finish. And that is the full cube making process. I have 4 molds in total, which means that I can make about 4 cubes per week at my fastest. So hopefully now you all understand a little bit better why I take so long between drops. And hopefully you have a bit more appreciation for that price tag.